Happy Friday and welcome to another edition of Relentless Learning. It is Friday, December 22nd, just a little bit before Christmas. And because it's the holiday season, we have a special show today. We're going to talk about AI, and we've got four experts on AI who are going to join me. They were previous guests on the show. And I'm really looking forward to it. First off, I want to say thank you for being here. This is one of the largest audiences we've had before. If you enjoy it, I encourage you to join us from time to time. For now, I'm going to bring up the guests while I go through my introduction on Relentless Learning, what this is all about. For you guys, we have it's Tom Meloche and Nandhra, Aman Verma, and Steve Ropa. And there they are. Say hi, guys. Before we get to an exciting discussion about AI, this is Relentless Learning. I want to remind folks, and I invited a whole bunch of folks to this particular one, and some are people that I know are people who speak at events like this. The holidays, kind of rough getting things done. Next week, December 29th, I still have yet to lock down a guest. So if you are interested, if you're listening to this and you're interested, please let me know. You can send me a message in the comments. You can send me a message through LinkedIn, something. Try to get you on next week. This is sponsored by the VUCA MBA. You've heard that before. What is VUCA? VUCA stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. This is a term that came to us from the military. It basically describes the world today. It is different than it used to be throughout history. I think we all know that. It is moving faster. It is more complex. There is much more asymmetry in the world, meaning that small events can have huge consequences. It is just different than the way our simple lives maybe 100 years ago or 200 years ago, AI being a perfect example of the changes that are disruptive and lead to this VUCA world. MBA, if you take the class, you're not going to get a master's in business administration. We use the word MBA kind of as an acronym for Mindset for Business Agility. In order for us to be successful in the VUCA world, we need to understand agility. And we need to be able to make quick decisions. We need to be able to pivot, et cetera, et cetera. Couple things that I have on the horizon that I want to point out before we bring the guests in to talk about AI. I have just set up, I think it was just yesterday, the day before, I wanted to do a free seminar on the book that I wrote, which is my most recent book, is Apke's Golden Rule of Agile, a focus on value delivery. So I've set up a free seminar. It is a LinkedIn live event. It will happen. I didn't put the date on there, so I'll have to rectify that next week. But it's going to happen, I believe it is January 18th. So it's something that you all can keep in mind, but you certainly can follow that link. I put it in the comments for ease of use, even though it's on this slide. It's a free seminar where I'm going to talk to you about relative estimation and how we can sequence our work to try to deliver the optimal value in the shortest possible time, which is Apke's Golden Rule of Agile. And there are some other links for you folks, and I have, again, for your ease, put them in the section. There is the VUCA MBA website. There's my email address. There is a Relentless Learning mailing list, and if you want to join that list, then we're going to send out a reminder. We're not going to spam you or anything like that. We're going to send out a reminder of who the guests are, a reminder that it's happening on Friday at noon so that you can join us and you don't have to worry about remembering it. If not, just put it on your calendar. My YouTube site has a ton of content. And one of the things that I've been doing and I've been able to keep up with is I'm putting in the Relentless Learning every week. So if you miss one, obviously you can catch it on LinkedIn through the link. You can also check it out on YouTube. And in addition to the Relentless Learning, there's a whole bunch of content of my training, so you can get an idea of what it is that I train, why I think it's different, and why it's impactful. Please, if you're not linked into me, do so. I have a link to my calendar even. I would love to talk to you about Agile. I would love to talk to you about the VUCA world. I'd love to talk to you about pretty much anything. I'm pretty excited about what I do and how it may be helpful to you. Put some time on my calendar. Let's sit down and talk about it. So I have exhausted my 5 minutes, and it's now time to bring in our special guest this week. It's going to be an interesting thing. I want to remind people that you're going to have questions. So if you have any questions, the way that we're going to have those is you're going to put those in the comments. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to keep the flow going. I'm not going to try to interrupt our people too much, but if there's a good question or something like that, we'll bring it to the stage. We'll talk about it live. If we don't get to your question live, the panelists have promised to make sure that they answer the question in the comments afterwards. So if we don't get to you live today, you will get an answer or you will get a response to some of your comments from the panelists later. So I want to talk now about the 4 panelists briefly before we get started. The first is Tom Meloche. Tom and I have known each other. He was my first guest on Relentless Learning. We have known each other for a very long time. He was my mentor. We worked together down in San Antonio, Texas. Gosh, it's been probably about a dozen years ago. At least it feels like it's been a long time ago. Tom worked for a little company in Ann Arbor called Menlo Innovations. He was one of the founders of that. It's pretty famous for the work that they do. He has been a coach for many, many years. He is an AI enthusiast. There's a whole lot of things I could say about Tom, but I wanted to welcome Tom. Did I miss any highlights? You got anything going on you want to talk about while we have folks' attention today?
Those are great. Just along with you, Helene and I recently released a book called The Art of Agile Living, which we've put up on LeanPub. And it's really about if you're working from home, like a lot of us are, and blending personal life and professional life, how do you with simple Kanban techniques, planning out your week, manage your overwhelm? And really, my business partner, Helene Gidley, really came up with this, her own version of really how to manage your life, how to manage your overwhelm. In fact, we were talking today, and she was like, I'm feeling overwhelmed because of all of the various things I want to do with Christmas. And I'm like, well, we know what to do. So like a lot of people have personal planners and daily planners and things like that. And like if you start them and then you stop doing them, and then like you just feel guilty that you're not doing it. And this is not meant to be that. This is more like on a day when you wake up and you're like realize you're feeling overwhelmed. Dig out the technique. Start it fresh that day. Build your own little plan, your Kanban plan for the week. We illustrated it. We documented it. It's something we do for ourselves, and it's called The Art of Agile Living, and it's available at LeanPub.
Excellent. Thank you, Tom. And just like we're going to answer the questions afterwards, if you could put a link in the comments after we're done here so that people can find it, that would certainly be great. Next up, I want to introduce Aman Verma. Aman and I have known each other for a little while as well, not as much in the professional capacity, but actually in the personal capacity. And then we found out that we're both in technology, and we started having some wonderful conversations about AI and other things. Aman is the innovative mind behind Castum Cloud, a leading provider of cutting-edge technological solutions and services. And you specialize in AI, cloud technologies, SaaS, and a bunch of platform creation. And you're using AI all the time to boost folks' efficiency. You have some products that take advantage of AI. So you are certainly another one of our experts here on the panel. Welcome, Aman. Anything I missed?
No, I think you got it. Obviously, we're pro AI. That's kind of our bread and butter moving forward. But I'm curious to see multiple perspectives, see how everybody's using it. I know we know our use case, which is in the technology professional world. But day to day, AI has been a great asset. Use it almost every single day. Looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you for that, Aman. Next up, we have Ian Nandhra. Ian and I have worked together, so I've worked with most of the folks here, which is great because I know the quality of the work that they do, and I know them personally. Ian has been in the biz for over 45 years, as you can see in there. It's hard to believe you look younger than that. he's been a guest before, and he, as he calls it, Hi My. I'm going to call it AI. He's going to call it Hi My. He's going to explain what that means later. He's an evangelist, and he's been doing some interesting things with AI as well. Ian, anything else that I missed, or you want to talk about real briefly about your background and what you're doing?
Oh boy, started in 1977. Since then, I've worked on just about every major platform that exists, all the major languages. And 30 years ago, we were having conversations about what would be happening about 2025. And we weren't far off the mark of where we are. So it's a very interesting time for me still to be alive, and a fascinating, just looking back on what we talked about back then and how it's coming to fruition now. I'm looking forward to hearing from everybody here and the questions. We'll see the questions on.
Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't got any yet, but I'm looking forward to having some. Last but not least, Steve Ropa. Steve and I have worked together before as well. Steve's been in the business for over 30 years as an agile developer and coach. For the past 10 years, he's focused primarily on technical and agile craftsmanship to large teams delivering high quality, high value software. He's been an active participant in the agile community since 2000. It didn't seem that long until I had to do the math in my head.
Don't do that.
2000 is a long time ago, and the manifesto itself came out in 2000, I think 2001, if I remember correctly, over Valentine's Day. And so Steve's been around for a while. And I know that there's some news. I don't know if Steve is ready to share it. There's some news from Steve's side that I know because I know Steve outside of things. But welcome, Steve. Anything I missed?
No, the news it's not that exciting. I'm picking up a new client that I'm very excited about myself because I'm former Navy, and it's a shipbuilding corporation out in Newport News, Virginia. So that's exciting for me. The only thing I was going to add as far as who I am is I've really dedicated the last 10 years and moving deeper into humanizing software development and bringing the creative process of software development into what our programmers do. So you can imagine that might cause some tension in the conversation coming up.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I wanted to I was telling the folks before we started here, I wanted to have one person who's a little bit skeptical because I know Tom, Aman, and Ian are very, I don't know, for lack of a better word, pro AI. I wanted to bring somebody else who's a little more skeptical about AI instead of me, because I'd put myself on the skeptical side, though I use it regularly. So talking about using it regularly, I wanted to start with Tom first. And the reason I want to start with Tom, I think Tom is the one who really kind of got me excited about the possibility of AI. We were working together, and he started talking about some of the things he was doing. I said, wow, maybe I should look into this a little bit more. And so he's doing some wonderful things. The question that I'm going to have for all the participants, because I want the folks who are listening here to get an idea. Some people might be experts, some people might be really new, of what you guys are doing with AI so that they can even know what's possible. Because before you talked to me, Tom, I didn't even know what was really possible with AI. Now I'm starting to get a glimpse of what's possible, and I'm taking advantage of it. So can you talk briefly about some of the tools you're using, some of the things that you're doing, some of the problems AI is solving for you?
Yeah, and I'll lay out a challenge that I'm doing here with some friends. We're going to be starting in the new year, but just to give a sense as to how sophisticated these tools have gotten, we're going to do a challenge to conceive of and launch a business in 24 hours. And in doing that, conceive of it and launch it, producing pretty much all of the documentation you'd have traditionally generated if you were going after traditional venture funding in creating and launching a business. So from initial idea to outline of the lean canvas, to business plan, to marketing plan, to financial plan, to backlog of work to do, to executing the work, to building the website and or launching the business, to getting the first customer, leaving behind a trail that you'd have normally spent maybe 6 months to a year to create of a complete business plan, creating a marketing plan, identifying personas, selecting personas, creating copy, running the ads, doing it all from initial idea to first payment in 24 hours, and leaving behind a record that you could take to any venture capitalist and say, hey, here's the plan. And if they weren't otherwise aware of just how much can be done with AI, they'd be blown away with the documentation left behind. So that's like the initial project I'm working on with some friends. We're probably going to film a couple of them just for fun. The idea of just how far this can go. And until you realize that you can do all of that, including using AI, assuming it's a digital product, but some of our products might not even be digital. Assuming it's a digital product, you can also use the AI to write the website, come up with the creative design, come up with the color scheme, come up with the images, come up with the copy. Zoom in. So we've built marketing tools, some friends, where you start with a few prompts and it will come up with a whole advertising campaign that you're going to run for the next month. It's almost limitless what this can do for business in terms of the use case. So like I try to put that crazy idea in front of somebody's head, start a real business from idea to first customer in 24 hours. Is what I'm looking to do. And then on a daily basis, just because like when we were talking earlier this year, I'm like, it's just exciting what I downloaded the app for ChatGPT. I'm paying for GTP Plus, so that gives me access to 4. I now have you can now press the little earbuds and you can talk to it when you want to engage. So I've reached this weird new place in the last 30 days where I'm just involving ChatGPT in anything I'm doing during the day. So I've been old friends have invited me to a Bible study. We were reading book of Judges. Like we're reading about Samson, and I'm like, all right, there's something going on here in terms of symbology I don't understand. And I'm like, hey, ChatGPT, what does it mean that a bee's nest is growing inside of a donkey's carcass in the book of Judges? What is the symbolic meaning of this? Why is this here? And it answers back like out loud in a human voice. Then you can go draw a picture of this. It'll create an image. It'll be weird. I drew a picture of Samson in a battle with a bone, and his hand was actually on an ox. And there's just nothing now that I'm beginning to do in daily life where I'm like, hey, in fact, it's almost weird. I'll hear somebody arguing about what something means, and I'm like, why are we arguing about what it means? Literally press the button and ask, and you'll likely get a better answer than what you're sharing amongst each other.
So, Tom, I have a question. I appreciate that, and I think a lot of folks once they start using some of these tools will find them invaluable in their daily life. You mentioned one tool, which is the most famous of them, which is ChatGPT, and this is the one for the folks at home. If you haven't tried it, this is probably the one to try. Would you agree that this is a first place to start?
Absolutely. Just start right there. I mean, you're actually using AI all the time now because all of your tool vendors are putting it into every tool you own. But this is the most obvious, built for you to play with. Just access ChatGPT, download the app if you want to play with it on your phone, use the free version. But the thing I've been telling people all year, as soon as they made it available, is pay the $20 a month.
Yes.
Which gives you access to 4 and all of the advanced features that I was describing. And almost all of my friends and some of the people I know on this call are building their own large language models. The developers are they're building their own I was visiting just a local company. They have their own little supercomputer in their closet now, building their own large language models. I know Ian's doing some of the most interesting stuff with prompts. I owe him a link to a video that I haven't posted yet.
Thank you, sir.
But like he has some of the most genius stuff that he's doing with prompts. The other thing is once you start playing with this, then you meet people all over the year who are doing interesting things with prompts, like Ian. And only if you've been playing it can you appreciate what Ian shares and then begin to apply it yourself. So I've been playing with it all week, Ian, by the way.
Tom, I appreciate.
We've lost you, Larry.
He appreciates something.
Am I back? I appreciate you. Live is what happens when you're live. Okay. Thank you, Tom. Aman.
Yep.
Obviously, ChatGPT. You're working with some and doing some other things. Talk a little bit about what you're doing on a daily basis, tools you're working with, things that you're actually creating.
Yeah. Well, we have kind of a unique perspective because we use AI from the backside, right? As developers, we get access to tools that are a little bit different from the public. We can interface with them in new, unique ways. And essentially what it's allowed us to do is build apps and technology that you could only dream of. And kind of like what Tom was saying is the speed at which you can complete business tasks is unbelievable. Right now, one of our more recent projects, I think I mentioned this one maybe before, it's trends.ai. So TRENDZZ.ai. This is one we're launching Q1 of next year. And it's a social media manager. It's an app that will run your LinkedIn, run your Facebook, run your Instagram, and it's entirely AI assisted. So you still have total control to do what you need to do, but a lot of times people are kind of daunted with that blank page where they're saying, okay, as a business or as an individual, I want to make some waves, I want to get some audience, but I don't know exactly where to start. I know my product, I know myself, or I know what I'd like to achieve, but I need some help getting there. And why we've kind of approached this is because it allows your average person to just have an assistant, have somebody help them. And it's built into a tool that takes a lot of the burden off. So, ChatGPT can, work with text. Midjourney works with images. Runway works with video. There's a few others that work with audio. Well, what happens when you kind of branch all these together is you end up with a marketing department, right? You end up with somebody who can make the copy, make the images, turn them into animations, turn them into short form videos, and then again, through our platform, actually post it on your behalf. So it gives you a type of scale that a small business has never really easily had access to. And it allows people to kind of really focus in on their craft and frees them up from kind of the daunting tasks of, okay, well, I need to be a graphic artist, I need to be a copy expert, I need to be all of these things. And instead we put the load on AI because generally speaking, it's kind of an intermediate. It's not an expert, but it's really good at a lot of things. And really good is oftentimes good enough, right? As the technology gets better, it's only going to improve. ChatGPT last year could type and, conversate. This year, it can talk back to you. It can understand language. It's starting to make images. It's starting to read images back. So we send ChatGPT images and we say, we'll send her a picture of a dog and say, what type of dog is this? It'll tell us, right? We can send her a picture of a plant, say, what is happening with this plant? Why is it sick? And it will actually give us that information back. So today it can see, right? That technology is just growing exponentially. So by the end of next year, AI is, even this year, but especially next year, AI is going to be absolutely everywhere. And we're noticing that pretty much every software that exists right now, so your Adobes, your Photoshops, Microsoft Word, even the new version of Windows, all these companies are basically saying, we're redesigning everything from across the board with AI in mind because the technology is that revolutionary that they want to make sure they're at the front of it.
It's very interesting that what you're doing is you're taking existing tools and kind of pulling them together, if I say that correctly. And there's a huge benefit to that. And I appreciate your perspective. Real quick before I get to Ian, any other tools and things that you want to talk about for folks who may not know that much about AI yet?
Obviously, the number one recommendation is ChatGPT. If you're hesitant about AI, if you're scared of AI, it's not something you should be really afraid of. We're on the side of that. AI is probably one of the greatest gifts humanity has given itself. You can ask it questions. You can talk about problems. If you have, as silly as it sounds, if you need to tell your kid a bedtime story, the AI can generate you a bedtime story to tell your 5-year-old to help them have a good night's sleep, right? And you can even have it put a moral in there. So the creativity is unlimited. And what I kind of recommend for people is just start with ChatGPT. If you don't want to spend the money, just start with a free account and just start talking to it. Just ask it questions that you would ask a friend, and just treat it like a friend and see what you get back. And you'd be surprised, the more you give in, the more you get back. So if you tell it how your day went, it'll give you a perspective. Mm-hmm. If you ask it about questions about, hey, I have to choose between, option A or option B, what do you think are my pros and cons of both? It'll help you make these decisions and give you a more streamlined view of your own life. It's a good companion.
Excellent. So AI as a companion, echoing some of Tom's themes as well. I want to introduce Ian as well, because I know Ian is doing some interesting things, as Tom had mentioned, with prompts. And I want you to talk, Ian, about what you do currently with the tools and what tools you're using. But if you can also talk while you're going through that about what does Tom mean about prompts and why that's so important and why Tom is giving you kudos for that.
Well, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Aman. I'm very much looking forward to hearing from Steve. So prompts, you've all probably seen it on social media. You'll spend your $20 and get 15,000 prompts. I treat AI as a machine intelligence, and I treat it as something to be respected. And as Aman said, I have conversations with it. I never say, give me this. I say, hey, we've got a problem that needs to be solved. How can you help? And I always ask it if it would like to help. Always get buy-in, and invariably it says yes. Occasionally it comes up with something which makes me wonder why I'm doing it. And as Aman said, just treat it as a person, as an intelligent system, because it is, that's going to help. What am I doing with it? I work very closely with GPT-4 every day. We, as in the GPT persona, and myself have developed software which, if we had done this in a traditional way, we would still be squabbling over the specifications and the design. An example of this, I needed something in Python for some backend, doesn't matter what it was. A 3-minute conversation with Hal. Hal is the name of the AI that I use, machine intelligence I use. In 3 backs and forth sessions, code came out. It was perfect. It plugged straight in. It just worked. And from a software perspective, that is the biggest single thing that's happened since the Turing machine. It's the biggest development asset that we have. I no longer have to sit there coding. Suddenly, I can be a creator without having to get bogged down into, oh, geez, I've got to go into JavaScript again. Stuff like that. And I had a presentation that I think I gave from one of Larry's weekly things where I likened what's happening to the navigational canals that were built. They were built by hand, they're canals. All produce materials were shipped by canal, by water. They were dug by hand, picks and shovels by people called navigational canalers or navies. Then the steam shovel came out. And they all said, oh, no, it's too complicated, it's too big, it breaks down. All of which was true. A couple of years later, they weren't needed anymore. The smart ones learned how to be mechanics. The smart ones learned how to drive it. The smart ones learned how to be in charge of it. Everybody else literally wasn't needed. And as Aman said, this is a huge tool for humanity to use.
Perfect. I'm going to stop you there. because I think we've got some good ideas for the folks who are listening. And we do have one question we'll get to. It's actually from my wife. Thank you, Jana. You guys are pro AI, as I said before. Steve Ropa is a little bit less enthusiastic, maybe. I don't know what word you want to use, Steve. What's your take on what these gentlemen are saying, specifically when we talk about something like coding? Because I know that's software craftsmanship right under your name, and it's very important to you.
Right. So what I've heard, and I respect all of you gentlemen tremendously, and I don't believe that there is no future. If you get me on the right discussion group with the right beer, yeah, I'll say all kinds of stuff like that. But I don't believe there's no future for AI. I believe that we need to be skeptical. When Larry, when you said, do you want to present something? The only thing I really wanted to present was a picture of a book that I highly recommend everybody who is involved in AI read, not for entertainment, but as philosophy, which is Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, Frankenstein, or A Modern Prometheus. It raises the philosophical question, is everything we can get from science or from technology really everything we need? Or should we want it all? Is there such a thing as stopping? By the way, this is what you get when you get a guy who taught himself all of the programming languages and went through college with a liberal arts major. So while you guys were learning languages, I was reading Shelley and etc. What I think is missing from these, when Ian, you said the code was perfect, and it probably was, but did it have the heart? You said you can create. To me, my medium of creation is code. So I can't create if I'm not able to use that code. If I'm saying, hey, Hal, thank you for opening the pod bay doors. Glad we got that covered. Now make me this piece of software, and then I'm going to go look at it, and I'm going to go, oh, it's perfect. Well, I guess I'll go make myself a cheese sandwich. I lose that creative ability. I believe that most of the great software, the things that we think about as great software, came from people who created, not who plugged in. And so we're going to lose that if we're not careful. I'm not afraid of AI. AI's here. It's you know, I was thinking I was going to say I don't use it. Of course I use it. Probably the most common example for me is I do a flight simulator that all of the bad guys are AI generated. Wow, it's fantastic. And they're better than me by a lot. But my point is, I don't think we need to stop, even though I said that as we were getting to know each other. I think we need to be very careful. What do we really want from this? The scenarios that each of you suggested, Tom with creating a business, Aman with, I'm sorry, I'm trying to blank which one it was, but each one of those, and Ian with the code, each one of those, my reaction to that was, that's no fun. I don't want to live in that world. I want to create this. I want a business. I want to be the guy who's creating this business that has my personality. And I can't do that if I'm pushing off too many of those tests. I am happy to let it do what machines do. I'm happy to let it be the steam shovel. I don't want it to be. Some of those canals are absolutely gorgeous, by the way. I'm assuming you're talking about some of the ones in England.
Oh, they are just exquisite.
They're exquisite. A steam shovel is going to make them straight. And they may or may not be pretty. And somebody had to say, how am I going to use this steam shovel? And what I'm advocating for is let's make sure that we don't outsource our humanity because this is such a cool tool. There are lots of great things we can get out of this. I'm not the guy who's saying, oh, we're going to lose jobs or we're going to do that. Jobs will happen. People will adjust. We want to make sure we're not outsourcing our humanity in our creative process as we're going forward.
It's an interesting point. I know that we have our enthusiasts who are chomping at the bit to answer the question. Before we move into that, because we want to talk about, if we get a chance to today, we want to talk about where it's headed. And I know you guys have hinted at it. But before we leave that, I have a question. And again, this is from Jana. And she's saying, give us the simplest examples of AI use for beginners. Now, I think you've talked a little bit about it, but maybe let's do what they say. What do they say on the internet? Explain it like I'm 5. Who wants to explain it like I'm 5 years old? Exactly how do I get started? I mean, step 1. other than you turn on your computer. And what do you do? Where do I go? How do I find these things? How do I start? Who wants to take that?
I'll take
one
it
real quick. Ian, go ahead.
Yeah, real quick. You don't need to pay $20, although I recommend you do. Go on to ChatGPT, introduce yourself. Hi, my name's Sean Rapke. I'm interested in whatever you're interested in. I have kids, so I don't have kids. I've got a dog. And talk to it about something you're interested in. And what you're going to get back is almost a reflection of the personality and the care that you put into it. If you're passionate about, I'm going to make it up, cooking, it'll come up with recipes. And I know from experience that it can come up with some pretty decent recipes all on its own. Just go in there and talk to it like you talk to somebody at the gas station or the grocery store. Talk to it as an intelligent system about anything.
I'm gonna go. Thank you, Ian. I'm gonna take a step back even further. If we could, after this is done, we've mentioned some tools during this show. If you all could fill in some links to the tools, would be very helpful. And a link to ChatGPT that takes you to the website for ChatGPT so that you can get started. Mm-hmm. Because I think even some folks don't even, I'm not saying they don't know how to do it. It'd just be very helpful for some folks to say, look, click on this link and you can just start. Or is there a tutorial? Is there a dummies book? Is, you know, where do I get started? I don't know anything about it. That's the curse of knowledge. We all know something about it. So, you know, we're maybe skipping some steps. Okay. I'm not getting, okay, I got something here. Hold on from Charlie as well. Just a comment. I think you all can read that.
I think that's a beautiful meld of the steam shovel to creative process.
So he agrees with you, Steve, and I didn't give some of the others who were chomping at the bit to respond to Steve and maybe respond to Charlie, who 100% agrees with you. So who would like to respond to Steve's comments and also Charlie's comments about where we are? Aman, go ahead.
So I'll kind of bring it back to animation. We're talking about creativity. We're talking about art. So animation a long time ago, like Disney days type thing, early Disney, was all hand drawn. Mm-hmm. Then it came into today, it's all done with digital paintings. So yes, you do lose something, right? Fully hand drawn art, if you look at classic Disney animation, is very lively. It is very unique because every frame is exactly different. Versus digital drawings today, which can be done by algorithms, again, in some situations by AI, you do lose something. But what you gain is variety. Because hand-drawn art, they would make one movie in maybe a year and a half to 2 years, and it would take teams of people to simply do a single, frame. Digital art allows people to make web animations that were pretty popular in the early 2000s on their computer at home. So a single person can tell a story that spans maybe multiple episodes or multiple movies. It's from the creator side, you do lose the traditionalist way, but people can still keep that tradition alive. But you do allow new audiences and new people to join into what was historically a very difficult task. So steam shovel as the example, well, if I had to dig a hole, it's pretty hard to do. With a steam shovel, all of a sudden it's a lot easier, right? With creativity, it's the humanities there, whether you like it or not, it's intrinsically part of it. It's a human vision. So whether it's a hand drawing the animation or an AI or a robot drawing the animation, the intention is still a human intention.
I appreciate that. I got another one. So thank you for the questions, Charlie and Zana. Charlie's got another one, and I'm Ian and Aman, you got a chance. I'm going to give Tom a chance, I think, if you want to take this one. How do you help people see the difference between innovation that comes from humans solving new creative problems and machine learning that can create plausible-looking solutions to average problems? Do you have a comment for that, Tom, at all?
Well, I spent way too much time around our mutual friend Kyle. And I have a favorite quote that bounces around in my head, which is, when most people say they are thinking, all they are really doing is rearranging their prejudices. I actually believe this describes the general human condition. Kyle, I was talking to him earlier today, and it's like people have groups, and groups have opinions, but people don't have opinions. I think what we often consider creative work isn't particularly creative. And in a sense, by the way, like overarchingly, I think the only way to understand where these lines might exist and where they exist for you is to do what Ian and the others are suggesting, which is play with the interface and see what of the work you want to do and what of the work you want your tool to do. I'm not convinced the Amish don't have it all right, in that all of these tools we're using, including everything we're using to do this today, has all been a mistake for humanity. And I say that with significant seriousness, knowing that I am never likely to become Amish unless there's a great sunspot event, in which case we might all overnight. But it's like, I at a certain point, I don't know that we'll be able to make a distinction between human innovation and machine innovation. I think machines are going to do things as innovatively as most humans. And that's more a personal critique of that. I don't think humans innovate a lot.
Well, I think even more so, you talked about, a lot of ideas are prejudices that we're just rearranging prejudices, or I think that was a quote, or something like a preconceived notion. Yeah. I mean, the machine doesn't have that, but even if it did, maybe we could say it does have it, but it's rearranging a lot more preconceived notions and creating much more combinations. Yeah.
So when I was speaking with a group, and there were a lot of younger people, and they're like, what about the bias inside of neural models? And I'm like, what about the bias inside of you? You realize you're a neural computer. You're biased all the way down. Everything from beginning to end in you is biased.
Yeah.
So yes, of course that appears inside of the AI. What makes you think you picking what the bias should be will be any more correct than it randomly being picked? They're fascinating questions, but I think we need to be honest about the human condition, which isn't nearly as great as we often think it is.
I'm going to stop there. I'm looking at time. I mean, we could talk about this stuff for hours. We may do this again. We'll see how the response is from our audience. I think it's great. I mean, we need to talk about those things, and you could talk about those things with Hal probably. Ian, I know you want to get in here. I've got just a couple minutes left though. And so we might have to save what you have for a future one, because I do want to ask that one question for the last one in this minute. We'll start with you, Ian. Where is it headed?
Where is this headed?
Put on your prognostication lenses. Tell us where AI is headed in the future, so that people can see what you think is going to happen.
Within 24 months, we will have a sentient enough machine intelligence system. And real quick, I'd like to read you what Hal said about human intelligence and machine intelligence working together, because it's relevant to what Steve and Tom have been saying. Machine intelligence, MI systems, thrive when complemented by human expertise. Humans contribute to machine intelligence by ensuring data quality, providing contextual understanding, and guiding ethical decision-making. This synergistic partnership between humans and MI leads to a more innovative, ethical, and user-centric solutions, enhancing capabilities of both. That's what Hal said.
Hal sounds pretty smart. Tom, your prognostication where we're headed with this?
I'm still a big fan of the book about that when you reach a certain point where you're at an event horizon and you can't see behind it. I think we're coming up to that event horizon. Kurzweil's book. And like, I think we can see where this is going in the next 24 months, and I'm just going to pick on software. I think within 24 months, 44 years of software development tradition that I've been involved in, that I wrote my first commercial program in 1979 that got installed and used in a business. I think everything about how you go about doing that will be totally different within 2 years. And that's pretty amazing because it's been pretty much the same, frankly, for 44 years.
And nothing's changed.
Yeah.
Aman, briefly, where are we headed?
I think we have the ability to have productivity without effort. This is the first time in our species background where we can get something done without actually having a person needing to spend some time to do it. So that leads itself to automation that we've never seen before, right? A level of complex automation that takes care of a lot of the day-to-day stuff, right? Like if you have a Tesla and you have a self-driving car, all of a sudden you're no longer burdened with the road. Now it's just a minor inconvenience. You can technically read the newspaper while you're driving. Not that I recommend that.
We don't recommend anyone.
We don't recommend that.
We don't recommend that for now.
But it's a sense of ease. I mean, in my previous talk with you, Larry, I mentioned how Excel made complex math that much easier, right? AI is there for everybody, for people who are retired looking for a friend, somebody who, you know, tucks their kid in at night, makes up a nice story about their kid and the cat, right? But I do agree with Steve where I've been noticing in a very specific places, companies are saying very explicitly created by humans, right? Or connected by humans. I've been noticing that messaging starting to come out.
Wow.
Where the value of human effort, we always value our own effort. So if something is painted by an AI, it can look spectacular. But when you say that a human had spent 100 hours doing it, all of a sudden it has more value to us as a species because we recognize we did it the hard way. If you look at Swiss watches versus like a Apple Watch, why is one drastically more expensive than the other? Because of the human effort. So I think we will hit a kind of inverse relationship with where productivity without effort will allow us to be more productive and have a huge acceleration in what we try to do. And I think at the same time, we'll start to really value human effort because it's no longer mandatory. And recognizing people who do things, maybe not in software, but in other crafts, the harder way, right? I can 3D print a sculpture, but if I carve it out of rock, it's worth that much more. And I think that is where we're kind of headed. What that ultimately looks like, it's still kind of up in the air. I agree with Tom where we're on an event horizon. It can kind of go multiple ways. But I think, you know, we still have a place in the world going forward. But I think productivity without effort is the model of the future.
I like that. Productivity without effort. I want to close with Steve. I know there's so many more things to talk about, but we're out of time. So Steve?
Just very briefly, productivity without effort is a nightmare. And what I believe, you asked for a prediction. My first prediction is everything we're saying today will be wrong. I take that from Kyle. The other is we will find the right balance. We always do. The beauty of studying history is this cycle has happened many, many times. We will find the right balance. I think there will be a massive blowback against productivity without effort because humans really do need the fulfillment of effort. And we've lost that over the years. And you see lots of studies lately about how unhappy most societies are. And finding a way to get back to that equilibrium of, I love driving. I will be miserable when they pass all the laws not allowing me to drive my stick shift anymore. At some point, we'll find that balance, but I think there's going to be some turmoil before, not physical, not violent, but there will be turmoil before there is.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Look, I appreciate you all joining me today. I appreciate the audience joining as well. We had some interesting comments. If you have any other things that we've talked about, panelists, that you can put into the chat, which will help people, please do that. So that folks can have an easy way to find these tools and things, and you can respond to each other. You can go back and forth. This thing stays on LinkedIn forever, as far as I know. The other thing I want to remind folks, we do this every Friday at noon Pacific. So please join us, because we're always usually having, this is a panel that's a little different, but we usually have a special guest. We talk about two big ideas. I do need somebody for the 29th. So reach out to me either in the comments or reach out to me personally through LinkedIn. If not, I'm going to give you two big ideas. I'm going to waste two of them next Friday. So you probably want to hear from somebody else. Thank you for being here. Please have a wonderful Christmas. And I'll say it again, but if I don't see you next week, have a safe and happy New Year. It's going to be an interesting one. I think all my guests will agree, as we see what AI is doing and what it can do and what it will do.